This episode is proudly supported by Pepe Sayer Australian Cultured Butter.
At Pepe Sayer, we focus on quality. So if someone comes into your restaurant and they see you're using Pepe Sayer, they know immediately that that is a quality product you've got in front of you on the table. And that comes from a decade of just doing quality butter day after day.
For more information, go to pepesayer.com.au.
I still read all the cookbooks, I still watch the cooking shows, I'm still up to date with all the trends on food and understanding my why and why I want to do it. It's just that why it's just progressively changed. It's not so much it's not a solo career anymore. I've got people around me that I want to bring with me.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Tropical North Queensland is an extraordinary place with produce many chefs across Australia rarely get access to. What's it like moving to a region where the produce is vastly different to that which you cut your teeth on? Daniel Crossman is the executive chef of Salthouse in Cairns. Daniel, how are you?
Great, thank you. Good to be here.
It's great to get you on the show. It's pretty beautiful up there in tropical North Queensland. What's things like at the moment?
It's overcast today, I'm afraid. There's been rain all morning. It's a bit of a weird season we're having, I think. It rained a lot later this year and it's starting to get muggy now. So it's just been a bit all over the shop. We can't really decide what it wants to do.
What is it normally like this time of year? What sort of produce do you see up there? Australia is so large and the produce is so different, but what do we see in North Queensland at the moment?
Well, I've been going to the markets every Friday morning for about the last 5 years. So seasonally, I see it all come through. There's obviously always beautiful pineapples and things like that, but we've got plenty of custard apples and sour sops and all the nice big dark green leaves are really beautiful. Like there's lots of kale and rainbow chard and the silver beets and the spinaches are amazing. And then for the last 6 weeks, I've had access to some beautiful hand grown peas, which are only in season for a few weeks of the year. I get them at Rusty's Market from a local farmer. So they're brilliant. Yeah, so it just, it depends on what's going on, but like the rain really brings out the best in all the nice, beautiful leaves.
Tell us a little bit about Salthouse. You're leading the team there. What are you doing there with the establishment?
Well, Salthouse is a massive venue. We have a restaurant, we have a really large bar, we have a pizzeria, and we also do functions every week. So, my aim for the restaurant was to really turn it into something that was, I guess, on trend. We've got big, beautiful Argentinian grill. So all of our proteins and all of our seafoods are cooked over wood. We go and get that wood ourselves from a property out past Mossman, and then we bring it back and we start cooking on it. So we've got I guess the main thing what I was trying to achieve was matching beautiful proteins and beautiful reef fish and beautiful prawns with the lovely produce and fresh fruit and vegetables that I get at Rusty's Market every week. So the menu changes probably every 3 months. I make menu changes depending on what's in season. And we've got, at the moment, we're doing a beautiful Rusty's Market garden salad, which is full of everything that I get from the market every week, and we kind of just we make the salad around that. We've got the blueberries and the peas, and we've got papaya on there, and lovely cucumbers, which is all from our suppliers. Our seafood all comes from Preston Seafood, so they get. Obviously, we've got the Great Barrier Reef right next door to where we are, so there's plenty of stuff going on. All the prawns are local, all the fish is local, coral trouts. So the menu's the restaurant menu is sort of, I want it to be something that's on trend, and I want it to be rustic and smoky. I want it to have lots of flavour, and I want it to look like it's, I guess the best way to describe it, I want my food to be rainforest perfect. So I want it to look like it's fallen, like a leaf fallen from a tree and it's landed on the ground. and it's perfect the way it is. So that's my goal. And then over in the bar, we do lots of little bits and pieces, like we do prawn sliders, and we do grilled squid with agrodolce, and we do karage chicken, and then just simple plates of fish and chips. And then over in the pizzeria, we're making all of our pizza dough by hand. We're rolling by hand, and we're using the best toppings we can possibly source, and we're trying to create like a traditional trattoria pizzeria style open venue. So it's a pretty exciting little spot, and I'm really proud to be running it, and I enjoy the opportunity to get creative and artistic and be the leader of the team there. It's great.
How many staff does it take to run such a big venue with sort of multifaceted as it is?
Oh yeah, that's the big one, isn't it? That's the most expensive item, I guess, is the staff. I've got about 3 in the pizzeria. I've got about 15 chefs in the restaurant, 4 chefs in the bar. So yeah, there's any time between 15 and 20 staff, and that doesn't include the kitchen hands. But then, like if we've got functions on, we could have 20 staff in the kitchen at one time, everybody working to their absolute max and trying to push out a variety of different foods. Like I said, from grilled calamari with agrodolce to an aged meat, or to an ironwood roasted duck.
What's it like running a restaurant in a regional centre like that? Do you have to sort of play to tourists or locals? What's the approach that you have?
Yeah, so look, I mean, during the off season, it is really local based, and so we need to, we need to cater to what the locals like. I mean, the locals love good steak, they love good fish, they love prawns, and they love oysters, and they want to be able to come out and have a nice dinner, but they don't necessarily want the big fancy stuff. They want to go out and have a nice family dinner. Whereas in the busiest time of year, we really need to have a big menu that's focused on what we can really do and what Cairns has to offer, and bringing in all the local stuff and stuff that people can't see back in Melbourne, because the locals see it every day. So they want to they're happy to come in and just have a nice meal and family time and enjoy themselves. But yeah, so the menu in the busiest time of year, it's really like we've got the revenue coming in, so we're getting the good produce and we're putting it on the menu, and it sells really well.
I want to explore what you're doing there in detail in a little bit, but take us back to when you were young. Where did you grow up, and what sort of role did food play for you?
Food was massive for me. I've got a big family. We all love food. I grew up in a regional town in Victoria called Echuca. I grew up on a farm with my grandmother living next door. My grandmother was always bringing over banana custard and raspberry tarts, and she used to make these sausage rolls that we used to eat. We used to eat about 100 sausage rolls at a time growing up. And then we had every Christmas my grandmother would make these things she called lilies, and it was just sponge cake that she folded over she just cooked the sponge cake, and then she folded it over a rolling pin, filled it with cream and jelly. And she made them every Christmas, and every Christmas there was always fights over who would eat the most lilies, or there'd be always someone sneaking over to my grandmother's house to steal the lilies. I remember my grandmother actually tried, when I was already an established chef by then, but my grandma tried to, well, we called her Mama. My Mama, that's what her name was. So Mama tried to pass on the recipe for the lilies to me, because I loved cooking and I loved being a chef, and she showed me how to do all this stuff, and I was like, no, you don't do it like that, because this is how you do it. And so we ended up just having a big fight. So I'm not allowed to have the lily recipe, so that went to my sister. But yeah, so food for me was was really, really important in Echuca, and I always loved food. I've always had a good relationship with it, and I always wanted to be a chef from a young kid in primary school. I still wanted to be a chef.
Tell us about sort of that first foray into the industry. Where did you get your foot in the door, and what was it like?
Well, it was pretty difficult, actually. I left school at the end of year 11 in 1998. I went and worked. I got an apprenticeship at a little restaurant in Echuca called Giorgio's on the Port. And I did struggle with like going from, a kid at high school who had his freedom to going into the workforce as an apprentice chef. And I spent the first 12 months of my career washing salad leaves and dishes. My first head chef was a lady named Laurel. She was actually really good for me. I was close to quitting after the first 4 months, but she was quite a really good talker and a really good leader, and she sat me down, and I remember she handed me this little French cookbook with a lot of French terms in it for cooking, and she made me memorize. She would highlight about a page of words or a dozen or so words, and she would make me take the book back and memorize the French cooking terms. So I used to, and then every week I'd get tested on the French cooking terms. So that was, that for me was, those cooking terms came from Escoffier. They were all old Escoffier cooking terms. So for me, I found that, I got one-on-one time with the chef, which I really enjoyed, and I found it really interesting, and I learnt a lot. And I've always been a big fan of chefs. Like I used to love Marco Pierre White, still do. I remember when I was at Giorgio's, the second year of my apprenticeship, Laurel brought us tickets for a Gordon Ramsay's first cookbook launch, Passion for Flavour, at the Hilton Hotel. So me and the other apprentice, Greg, we got to sit down. Well, we turned up to the dinner and we walked in and they go, hello, Mr. Crossman, hello, Mr. Egan, you guys are sitting with Mr. Ramsay tonight. And we're like, what? What do you mean? Yeah, so we were sitting at the same dinner table as Gordon Ramsay, like he was right in front of us. So we spent 2 hours with Gordon Ramsay having dinner when he was doing Passion for Flavour. So he would have just opened up Gordon Ramsay, Restaurant Ramsay, I think, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, we did that, and that was just like fascinating, and that was just the best time. So sort of, I've always been grateful to Laurel because I did want to quit, and she kept me there and sort of just put me on the straight and narrow. So I was there, and then had an attempt at moving to Melbourne, and I wasn't quite ready, and I came back to Giorgio's for another 12 months in Echuca, and then I started moving around after that. So yeah.
As you sort of built your career and got more comfortable in the kitchen, what were the really important sort of people and venues that helped sort of lead you down that path?
Well, there was, obviously I just mentioned Laurel. In Echuca there was a restaurant called Oscar W's, which had one hat. And I always wanted to work in, I was always reading the food guide, and I thought, oh God, it'd be good to work in a one-hat restaurant doing all this fancy food. So I went over to Oscar W's, and I went and worked there and the owner was a man named Dean Oberon. He gave me a great opportunity. I was a sous chef there, and I was a chef de partie, and I first learned to cook over wood on a big charcoal barbie that we had. So Dean was amazing. Working with Jeff Lindsay at Pearl, he was a massive influence on my life, and Nick Holloway at Nunu. Nick kind of, I guess Jeff taught me about flavour and how to cook ingredients and how to get the best out of those ingredients and how to season food, and he was just wonderful. Like, he was a great inspiration. And then obviously Nick worked with Jeff at Pearl, and Nick taught me, Nick's been a major influence on my career. I'll be forever grateful to Nick. He, not only did he teach me about flavour. He taught me how to be a leader in the kitchen. He taught me how to gather ingredients and source ingredients. And I've just always loved his style and the way his food looks. And so it's always been really important for me to make sure that the food that I'm cooking looks, like I want it to look amazing. Obviously, I want it to look like it's fallen from the tree and it looks perfect. And Nick was a major influence on me, teaching me that. And then, I've had, I'm great friends with, sounds like I'm name dropping, I guess, but these are sort of the influences that I guess.
We're here for it.
Yeah, I guess. So, and then I chin with Benjamin Cooper, who's a great friend of mine. He was I was pretty, when I joined up with Benjamin, I was about to quit, I think, after 15 years or so, maybe 16, 17 years in the kitchen, I was about to quit. But he believed in me, and he gave me a job, and he put me on the line. I was cooking curry and cooking a wok section and doing that goddamn deep fryer at Chin Chin, 8-9 hour shifts on a deep fryer, dropping all that pork, dropping all that pig's trotter. So he really, I guess he just made me laugh. He made it fun again. I wasn't having fun, and he's a very big personality in the kitchen, and he made me laugh and he made me enjoy what I was doing. So, they're the big ones. Apart from my grandma, who was really inspired me to cook nice food, and my mum doing her roast chickens and stuff like that. But I've been really lucky with the people that I've had in my career and the people that I've met over the years. So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the move to Cairns. How did that come about?
The first move in 2005, I was in a relationship, and her mum was living up in Cairns. So she wanted to be up here a bit closer to her mum, so we decided to move up. It was pretty... So I just said, yeah, sure. I mean, I'd never left Victoria, so I was happy, like, let's do it. So I got up here. I'd never even been to Cairns before, actually. So didn't have a job, and I was fresh out of an apprenticeship at Langton's in Melbourne, so I was had 3 hats, so I was pretty, I was ready to cook. I thought I was everything. Thought I was the shit. And I moved up to Cairns, and the first job that I got was actually I guess I was at the Sheridan Mirage, actually, in Port Douglas. I thought that would be an amazing place to cook. And, they put me on the, I remember them, they put me directly on the larder section doing the cold sandwiches, and or literally opening up bags of Thins crisps, salted crisps, and putting them on the plate and toasting a sandwich. And I said, after 3 days, I said, look, I've come up here, I want to cook. Just come out of this 3-hat restaurant. This isn't what I'm doing. Can you move me into the restaurant? And they basically said, oh, we just need you to stay there for a bit. So I gave it another chance, and then I just packed up my knife wrap a couple of days later, and I just walked out. So it was the first time I'd ever done that sort of a thing. So that was a bit nerve-wracking. And then, it was weird because I got home and I was reading a Delicious magazine and saw that Nick and Jason had just opened up Nunu in Palm Cove. And I remember I did a masterclass with Nick and Jeff at William Anglis when I was an apprentice chef. And Nick and Jeff were both at Pearl at the time. And Nick was amazing. I just remember Nick being really stressed because I think he was really under the pump about whatever was happening back at the restaurant. And Jeff was teaching me to cook the wok. And I was cooking pearl meat or scallop meat or something like that. I can't really remember, but it had little black bits all through the wok. Like I'd burnt the wok. I was only a third-year apprentice. I hadn't even used a wok before. And it was the first time that I'd ever seen a chef, like someone like Jeff, who I looked up to, walk over, grab the wok, basically said it's got black bits in it. Well, I think he said it's got fucking black bits in it. And then he threw the whole lot in the bin. He made me wash it and start it again. And so that was really eye-opening for me and actually pretty exciting. And then I was reading that delicious magazine and I saw that Nick had just opened up Nunu. So I thought, well, that's where I want to work. And I walked in, and it was really convenient because Nick had just had a chef walk out. And I walked in, and I got a job there on a casual basis. And then that a few weeks later was New Year's Eve. I was at home. I was just still working casual at Nunu, and Nick rang me up on New Year's Eve, and he said, "I'm desperate. Can you come and do a shift?" And it was like 5:45 on New Year's Eve, and they had like 50 or 60 people booked, and they're like, "Oh God, we're in so much trouble." And so I said, I'm actually at home cooking dinner for my partner at the time, and he said, "Look, just come in, bring your partner. She can have a free dinner. I just really need help." So I went in. All right, cool. So I went in, and Nick put me on the larder, and he said, "I know that you don't know what to do. I know that you haven't done this section before, but can you just do your best?" So I just spent about the next 2.5 hours just kind of just feeling my way through the Miang, not knowing the recipe. I don't even know if I did it right, but I got it all up. It was up on time. And then, we laughed about it and had a beer after service. And then, I was full-time after that.
Wow, that's amazing. You mentioned that 2005 was the first time you went to Cairns. What triggered the sort of time that you're there now?
Well, I just had in 2008, 17, I think it was, I had a failed attempt at, it might have been 2017, I had a failed attempt at moving over to Bali. And then I was back in Australia, and I was living in Albury, and I call it my Chinese shop years. I was working at a pretty, not a great Chinese restaurant in Albury, just trying to bring in some money. And then I was pretty flat, and I rang up Nick, and I said, "Oh, do you reckon I could just come up and just cook with you for the summer, just for a couple of months, just do that for the summer?" And he said, "Yeah, just leave with me and I'll call you back." So he called me back the next day, and he said, "Look, we'd like to fly you up. We'd like you to come up and be maybe be the head chef at Nunu." So I went up to Cairns and spent the evening with Nick and in the kitchen at Nunu, and I accepted the job, and then moved the family up here, and we're all here.
What's it been like the last sort of 6 years? How much have you changed as a chef, and how much has that sort of environment, ingredients changed your cooking?
Yeah, that's a big good question of like heaps. Like when I first got up here, I was very Melbourne, and my cooking was very I guess it was kind of like chin chin, like fast paced and big curries and lots of oil and lots of chili and just really heavy and rich flavors. And then just by working with Nick and doing menu development, I learnt about like cooking like lighter style food and fresh ingredients and going to the market and adapting to what you've got, and not necessarily using a recipe, but just navigating your way through the actual ingredient and what's happening with it. Like if I added too much salt, well, it's not really the end of the world. You just need to figure out a way to balance it out. Like, is it crisping up enough? Like how much water is coming out of it? And all these sort of things, like persimmons. Like persimmons are these brilliant. When I was in Melbourne, I didn't know what to do with them. But up here, like you can use you make a persimmon salad out of the crunchy persimmon. It's absolutely delicious. But then what are you going to do with the ones when they go overripe? So we just, we started making like persimmon ketchup and so it's sort of, like a tomato sauce, but with persimmon. So it was all, it's really like the fruit ripens fast. So you got to know what you're doing because of the heat. The chilies are hot. So you need to realize that if you add half a chili, it might be too much. If you add you probably only need 2 slices of that little green scud, not the whole scud. So I've changed a lot. I'm lighter. I've got better techniques, and I just have a better understanding of what's around me.
How did the gig with Salthouse come about?
The gig with Salthouse, well, my partner and I, Trish and I, we got pregnant. I was working at Noah at the time, and I needed a break. So I had a break. I had almost a whole 12 months off. I was sort of just working part time at a cafe with a friend, and it got to about 8-9 months in, and the baby was born, and I'd spent the time with the baby, and I really wanted to start cooking again. And I noticed there was an ad. There was two ads. I applied for one at the convention centre, and I applied for one at Salthouse. And I had to type up a resume because I didn't have a resume. So I typed up a resume, emailed that off to Finn, who owns Salthouse. And then the next day I got a text message from Jay, the general manager, saying, "Can you come in for a chat?" And that was it. It was just it was a really easy, felt right. I've always, whenever I've been at Salthouse in the past, I've always felt that I could offer something. But the timing was never right. Like I'd be pretty busy at Nunu and just, or something was going on in my life, and the timing was never right. So, the timing felt right. I sent my application in, and I got the job.
You mentioned a couple of times some of the changes that you've had in your careers and also thinking about leaving the industry and then being pulled back in. What's been the biggest adversity for you, and how did you get yourself through them?
The biggest adversity for me, honestly, has been my own personal headspace. Battling depression and battling that feeling that I'm not good enough to do the job anymore, and battling that feeling that I don't want to do it anymore, and forgetting about and completely forgetting the why I got into it in the first place, like the actual love of cooking. I guess it's kind of hard to answer. I guess what's at my lowest, when I've had the depression and the headspace at my lowest, I guess what's brought me back to it has been the time, and has been the strong people around me. And I think the first time that when I first met Benjamin Cooper, I was, I wanted to quit, and I guess he just he made me laugh. Like he reminded me why I was doing it. Like he reminded me, he said, we'd sit down and just have something to eat, and it'd be like the best thing I've ever fucking tasted in my life. Like just a bowl of curry. And it just reminded me about why I started. It reminded me about eating sausage rolls at my grandma's house, or the lilies at Christmas. And, then once I remembered my why and why I wanted to do it, it was about getting back to work and just slowly accepting, or not so much accepting, but just doing the work again, and just one bowl of curry at a time, one stir fry at a time, and tasting it and making sure it's right, and then just building my confidence back up. And yeah, I guess that's the way to do it for me. I've just been someone who has had mental illness in the past. It's really just been important to have a good people around me, and listen when I needed to listen, and understand that there is a reason why I'm doing this, and it's just about remembering it. So yeah.
You've built a family up in Cairns and a really successful restaurant as well. Has the move to Cairns changed you a lot?
Yeah, it has changed me heaps. I'm a lot different now, especially since the second baby has arrived. I'm looking for longevity. For me, it's about finding a new why, and the new why for me is my family, and seeing my two daughters grow up, and sending them to good schools, and just spending time with my wife, and having a nice time away from work, because I think achieving that work-life balance is what's going to help me get that longevity that I want to continue cooking into the years. And I really enjoy teaching the young chefs and leading them and showing them new ways of doing things. And I still read all the cookbooks. I still watch the cooking shows. I'm still up to date with all the trends on food and understanding my why and why I want to do it. It's just that why it's just progressively changed. It's not so much it's not a solo career anymore. I've got people around me that I want to bring with me. And that's what I see for the future and the way I'm going to get there.
Well, you're making an incredible impact in a beautiful part of Australia up there. What do you love about what you do?
What do I love about what I do? I love teaching. I do love watching the kids, like the young chefs, be successful in their sections. I love the food. I love the flavors. I love the ingredients. I've always had these moments in my career where I'm just eating something like a bowl of noodles and I'd be like, oh God, that's the best noodles I've ever had. And I'd be just speechless. And so I want to, if I make something, like if I'm doing some testing recipes or I'm doing something in the kitchen at work and I'll make it and I'll taste it and I'll be like, yeah, that's spot on. And then I'll make sure that there's a big stack of spoons there so that all the chefs come and have a taste. I taught myself how to make natural sourdough during COVID when I was not working, when we were in lockdown. So we started making our own sourdough at Salthouse, from scratch with a natural fermentation and levains and all the baskets and everything like that. And that's been a really difficult process in teaching that the process of making bread when I'm not a baker, but I can do the job. I know how to bake, but it's been really rewarding seeing the actual sourdough from those loaves that come out of the oven that look like a map of Tasmania, and they're just or a pancake, and they're completely flat, and you're like, well, we can't serve that. So you've got to start again. You've got to look at the recipe. You've got to tweak the recipe again. You've got to spend more time with the chefs and be like, come on, look at the dough. Because bread's it's not a recipe. It's the kneading of the dough. It's the shine of the dough. It's the water content. If you add your salt too early, it won't rise, or you'll kill the natural yeast in there. So that's a challenging process, but it's something that I love doing because I think it's about. I want to bring the guys around me up. I want them to be able to I want them to grow and achieve their goals, and to do that, I need to be able to teach them and bring them up around me so that they can understand their whys and know what they're doing.
Well, Daniel, it's an absolute honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today, just to hear a part of your story. Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. And be well.